Tonight we're going to take you on a calm, relaxing journey through a day in the life of a cowboy in the Old West. From the soft glow of dawn to the quiet stillness of night, you'll experience the gentle rhythm of life on a frontier ranch, guiding cattle, riding horses, repairing fences, and observing the vast, peaceful prairie. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another relaxing story from the Old West. Now, settle in, get comfortable, and let's drift slowly into the world of the cowboy, where time moves gently and every detail is a part of the calm, meditative rhythm of life on the prairie. The first light of dawn stretches slowly across the endless plains of the Old West. The horizon is a soft painting of pale pinks, muted oranges, and the faintest hints of purple. Shadows from the rolling hills lie long and gentle over the dew-covered grass. The wind moves quietly through the tall prairie grasses, carrying the earthy scent of morning dew and the faint perfume of wildflowers that have survived the cool night. A distant coyote's call echoes across the valley, low and mournful, fading gradually into the vast silence of the waking world. At the edge of a small, dusty ranch, a lone cabin sits quietly, its wooden walls weathered and grayed by countless seasons of sun, wind, and snow. Inside, the cowboy stirs. He stretches slowly, feeling the stiffness in his shoulders from yesterday's ride, from the long hours spent under the relentless sun, herding cattle across the open fields. His boots, scuffed and worn, sit neatly by the door, ready to be pulled on once he steps into the cold morning air. Stepping outside, he is greeted by the crisp breath of dawn. The air carries the subtle tang of smoke from a distant chimney, mixed with the natural fragrance of the prairie. The world is quiet, almost reverent in the way it unfolds around him. He pauses, letting his gaze sweep over the land, the rolling meadows, the distant tree line, the small glimmer of a river catching the first rays of sunlight. Every detail is calm, deliberate, and slow. The stable is alive with the soft noises of horses stirring. Their warm breath fogs in the cold morning air. Their hooves shuffle lightly on the wooden floor. He moves toward them quietly, speaking in gentle tones, patting their necks with a practiced hand. He loosens the saddles, brushes the dust from their coats, checks the reins and straps. His movements are unhurried, each action careful and precise, as if the morning itself sets the rhythm of his day. Breakfast is simple, humble, yet comforting. Over a modest fire, he boils water for coffee, the aroma weaving into the scent of the cabin and the open air. Biscuits, slightly hardened from yesterday, are warmed in a small skillet. He sits on a rough wooden stool, letting the warmth of the fire seep into his hands. He sips slowly, savoring the bitter comfort, while listening to the quiet, the soft clatter of a bird landing on the porch, the faint hum of insects awakening, the whisper of the wind through the open fields. By mid-morning, the sun climbs higher, brushing the land with a soft golden glow. Shadows shorten, colors brighten, yet the pace of life remains gentle. The cowboy mounts his horse, feeling the familiar firmness of the leather saddle beneath him. The reins rest lightly in his hands as he guides the animal forward, not rushing, allowing the rhythm of his horse's steps to match the steady pulse of the morning. The world stretches endlessly before him, wide and calm, inviting reflection with every slow, measured stride. Across the fields, he tends to his cattle. Each animal moves with him, responding to his quiet commands and gentle prods. The distant call of a dog, the soft murmur of a creek, the rustle of leaves, all blend into a serene symphony. Every action, from nudging a steer to checking fences, is performed with patience, with respect for the quiet pace of life on the frontier. There is no hurry here, only the long, unbroken rhythm of the land and the man who moves through it. The cowboy pauses beneath a solitary oak, letting the warm rays of the rising sun touch his face. He takes a slow, deep breath, feeling the cool breeze brush across his cheeks. Around him, the prairie seems alive yet peaceful, vast yet intimate, a world built of endless green and gold, of soft earth and gentle wind. It is a place to move slowly, to notice the smallest details, the shimmer of dew, the flutter of a bird's wing, the distant glint of sunlight on the river. All of it whispers of patience, of time stretching without end, and of the calm solitude of the frontier morning. The sun has climbed higher now, spreading a gentle warmth across the prairie. Its light glints softly off the tall grasses which sway lazily in the mild breeze. The air is dry yet fresh, carrying faint scents of earth, dust, and distant wildflowers. A bird sings somewhere in the distance, its song slow and measured, mingling with the low murmur of a nearby creek that winds quietly through the ranch land. Every sound is subtle, deliberate, perfectly suited to the calm of the morning. The cowboy moves through the fields, his horse's hooves pressing into the soft soil with a steady, rhythmic pace. He guides the cattle slowly, speaking in quiet, low tones, coaxing them gently along the worn paths. The herd moves in an almost hypnotic rhythm, their soft calls blending with the distant rustling of leaves and the whisper of wind across the prairie. Every movement, from the tilt of his hat to the careful adjustment of his reins, is unhurried, patient, and purposeful. By mid-morning, he pauses near a small, shaded grove of trees. Here, the earth is cool and the shadows long. The cowboy dismounts, running his hands over the coarse hair of his horse, patting the animal's neck slowly, allowing a few moments of rest for both himself and his companion. The quiet of the grove is profound. Only the soft babble of the creek, the faint scuttle of an insect, and the occasional flap of a bird's wings disturb the stillness. It is a space for reflection, a calm moment in a day defined by work and movement. Soon it is time for a brief meal. The cowboy settles on a flat rock, warming a few biscuits over a small flickering fire. He drinks slowly from a tin cup of coffee, savoring its warmth as the sunlight streams through the branches above. The wind stirs gently, brushing the prairie grasses in slow waves. Time seems to stretch, the day unfolding in a sequence of soft, deliberate motions. Every bite, every sip, every sound is part of a rhythm that belongs only to the land and its quiet caretaker. After resting, he continues his work, guiding the cattle across the open fields. The herd moves with a gentle sway, the cowboy's voice low and steady, reinforcing the calm pace. He checks fences along the way, repairing worn posts with careful hands, ensuring that every barrier is secure. Each task is performed slowly, without rush, the motions repetitive and meditative. Dust rises in soft clouds as hooves press into the earth, but even this movement is gentle, subdued, part of the quiet song of a prairie day. The afternoon arrives with the sun now high in the sky, casting soft shadows and bathing the world in warm, golden light. The cowboy moves through the land with measured steps, each action deliberate, adjusting the saddle, smoothing the horse's mane, nudging the herd along the winding path. He notices the smallest details: a butterfly landing lightly on a wildflower, the ripple of sunlight across a distant stream, the faint shimmer of dust in the air. The prairie is alive yet calm, a world in which every moment is meant to be observed slowly and with care. As the hours pass, he feels the steady warmth of the sun, the gentle pull of fatigue from the morning's labor. He leads the herd toward a shaded area near the river, allowing the animals to drink slowly, their heads dipping carefully into the cool water. The cowboy watches them, appreciating the soft ripples on the water's surface, the play of sunlight on the gentle waves. Even in work, there is calm, a rhythm to the life of the frontier that encourages patience, reflection, and quiet contemplation. The day stretches ahead, unhurried and deliberate, every step and every task flowing naturally into the next. The cowboy moves with the land, a single part of a vast, calm, and quiet world. In this space, the sounds of hooves, the whisper of wind, and the gentle rustling of leaves blend into a serene harmony, inviting slow, careful attention to the beauty of the ordinary and the gentle flow of time. The sun has begun its slow descent across the endless plains, casting long, stretching shadows over the rolling grasslands. The light is soft, a warm golden hue that seems to settle over everything it touches. The prairie shimmers faintly in the afternoon heat, and the gentle breeze carries the quiet scent of dry earth, wildflowers, and the faint smoke from a distant ranch chimney. The sounds of the day are slow and measured, the low calls of cattle, the soft flap of birds' wings, the faint rustling of the wind through the tall grasses. Time itself feels elongated, stretching gently into the afternoon. The cowboy moves steadily along the familiar paths of the ranch, guiding his herd with calm, deliberate movements. Each step of the horse is measured, each command whispered softly into the warm air. The cattle respond to his quiet direction, moving as one, their heads dipping occasionally to graze on the golden prairie grasses. There is a meditative rhythm in the work, the gentle sway of the herd, the soft creak of the saddle, the rustle of leaves as the wind passes through the trees. Every motion is slow, unhurried, and careful, as if the land itself dictates the pace of the day. Mid-afternoon brings the task of checking fences and gates. The cowboy dismounts, running his hands over rough wooden posts, tightening ropes, and securing worn hinges. He works slowly, deliberately, pausing to observe the surrounding landscape. A hawk circling high above, the faint shimmer of a creek in the distance, the soft glint of sunlight on scattered stones. Each task is a small ritual, performed with care and patience, the repetitive motions blending seamlessly with the quiet sounds of the prairie. Even in labor there is peace, a sense of unity with the land that stretches endlessly in every direction. The afternoon air is warm, brushing lightly against the cowboy's sun-kissed skin. He takes a moment to rest beneath the shade of a solitary oak, allowing the soft, filtered light to wash over him. The horse grazes nearby, its movements slow and rhythmic. A distant river murmurs faintly, the gentle gurgle blending with the whisper of the wind through the grass. Time seems suspended, each second elongated, inviting quiet thought and gentle reflection. The prairie feels vast and endless, yet intimately familiar, a space of calm and quiet belonging. As the sun begins to tip lower, the cowboy leads the herd toward a small stream. The cattle move slowly, stopping occasionally to drink from the cool water. The cowboy observes them in silence, noting the soft ripples across the surface, the faint reflections of sunlight, and the gentle sway of branches overhead. The air carries the warmth of the day, tempered by the approach of evening. It is a time for careful observation, for noticing the subtle beauty of the ordinary moments that define life on the frontier. The land seems to breathe around him, every sound and movement part of a slow, harmonious rhythm. The soft clatter of hooves, the gentle murmur of the river, the whisper of wind through leaves, all create a serene symphony. Even as the day moves toward its close, the cowboy remains deliberate in every action, adjusting the saddle, nudging the herd gently along, pausing to rest when needed. There is a meditative quality in the repetition, a calm reassurance in the steady progression of time. The early evening light casts a warm, amber glow across the prairie. Shadows stretch long across the rolling hills, and the temperature begins to cool. The cowboy guides the last of the cattle toward a shaded pen near the creek, ensuring each animal is settled comfortably. He takes a moment to breathe deeply, inhaling the clean, dry air of the prairie, letting the soft sounds of the land wash over him. The world is calm, vast and enveloping, each detail slow and deliberate, inviting a deep sense of peace and quiet reflection as the day continues its gentle progression toward night. The sun dips lower behind the distant hills, painting the sky with warm streaks of gold, orange, and soft lavender. Shadows stretch long across the prairie, and the golden grasses glow faintly in the gentle light. The air grows cooler, carrying the subtle scent of damp earth and fading wildflowers. Birds sing their last songs of the day, and the distant murmur of a creek winds softly through the quiet ranch. Every sound seems slowed, deliberate, as if the world itself is settling into rest. The cowboy guides the last of his cattle toward the holding pens near the riverbank. Each animal moves calmly, their heads dipping to graze as they respond to his soft, steady commands. The horse beneath him shifts its weight, stamping lightly in the soft soil, ears flicking toward distant sounds. There is a slow rhythm to the movement, a gentle cadence to the work that mirrors the gradual fading of daylight. Time stretches, measured not in minutes, but in the steady pace of the land itself. With the cattle secured, the cowboy dismounts, patting his horse slowly, allowing the animal a brief moment of rest. He runs his fingers along the worn leather of the saddle, feeling its familiar contours beneath his hands. The world around him is quiet, except for the faint rustle of leaves in the soft evening breeze and the gentle call of a distant owl. Every sound blends into the stillness, creating a calm symphony of life on the prairie as night slowly approaches. He walks toward the cabin, the long shadows of trees and hills stretching across his path. Each step is measured, careful, as the land cools beneath the fading sun. Small details emerge in the evening light, the shimmer of dew forming on grass tips, the faint glimmer of insects moving across the soil, the subtle hues of the sky deepening from warm golds to muted purples. Every observation is slow, deliberate, encouraging a quiet, reflective mind. Near the cabin, the cowboy tends to a small fire, its glow soft against the approaching darkness. He warms a simple meal over the flickering flames, biscuits, dried meat, and coffee that steams faintly into the cool air. He eats slowly, savoring each bite and sip, listening to the world around him as the last light fades from the horizon. The wind brushes gently against his face, carrying the sounds of the prairie. A distant creak, the soft clatter of hooves from his resting cattle, the whisper of leaves in the trees. Night falls gradually, wrapping the landscape in deep blues and soft shadows. The first stars appear, faint and scattered, growing brighter as the darkness deepens. The cowboy leans against the cabin door for a moment, gazing at the endless expanse of sky above the prairie. The cool night air brushes gently across his skin, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. In this moment, everything is still and calm, a gentle transition from the labors of the day to the peace of night. He settles near the fire for a final moment of reflection, the soft crackle of the flames blending with the distant, soothing sounds of the ranch at rest. His horse grazes quietly nearby, the cattle murmuring softly in their pens. Every motion is slow, deliberate, and unhurried. The world feels vast yet intimate, every detail softened by the gentle night. Every sound a calm companion to the mind slowing in preparation for sleep. The cowboy finally retires to the cabin, the door closing with a quiet creak. He removes his boots slowly, sets them neatly by the door, and stretches, feeling the gentle tiredness of a full day on the prairie. He lies down on the simple mattress, listening to the wind whisper through the cabin and the soft night sounds outside. Each breath is slow, each thought gentle, as the calm of the Old West seeps into the room. The prairie, the cattle, the wind, the fire, all seem to breathe alongside him, guiding the mind toward rest, toward gentle, untroubled sleep. The prairie is enveloped in deep, gentle darkness. The sky above is a vast canvas of midnight blue, sprinkled with countless stars that twinkle faintly, like distant fires burning softly in the immense emptiness. A thin crescent moon casts a pale silver light across the rolling fields, illuminating the grass and trees with a gentle glow. The wind moves slowly, barely stirring, carrying the cool, earthy scent of night and the faint aroma of wildflowers resting beneath the dew. Everything is hushed, deliberate, as if the world itself is breathing slowly, preparing for sleep. Inside the small wooden cabin, the cowboy lies on his simple mattress. The warmth of the fire has faded to glowing embers, and a soft chill drifts in from the open window. He adjusts the blanket over his shoulders and listens to the quiet world beyond the walls. The distant low murmur of the creek, the occasional rustle of a horse shifting in the stable, the faint call of a night bird far across the prairie. Each sound is slow, measured, part of a serene nighttime symphony that lulls the senses into calm. He reflects briefly on the day's work, recalling the gentle rhythm of guiding cattle across the fields, the soft sway of the grasses, the golden warmth of the afternoon sun, and the quiet satisfaction of a day completed without hurry. His breath becomes steady and even, matching the slow, unhurried heartbeat of the prairie itself. Every thought drifts away slowly, unpressured, like a cloud drifting across the expansive western sky. Outside, the land stretches into quiet, endless darkness. The cattle rest in the pens, their low murmurs blending with the soft wind. The horses graze slowly, occasionally lifting their heads to sniff the night air. The fireflies begin their subtle dance, flickering faint lights across the fields, adding tiny sparks of movement in the calm. Even the trees seem to sway more gently, as if the night itself has softened every motion, wrapping the world in quiet contemplation. The cowboy turns slightly, feeling the worn comfort of his mattress beneath him. He listens to the subtle sounds, a distant owl calling once and again, the gentle ripple of the creek, the faint movement of horses settling down for the night. Each sound is a gentle lullaby, orchestrated by the natural world itself, slow and repetitive, easing the mind into a peaceful state. His thoughts wander, soft and unfocused, floating across the endless prairie, across pastures and distant hills, through golden sunlight and whispering winds. Time seems to lose its sharp edges. Minutes and hours blur together in the calm rhythm of the night. The mind slows, the body relaxes, and a gentle drowsiness creeps over him, as natural and inevitable as the fall of darkness itself. Finally, the cowboy closes his eyes fully. The chill of night settles over the cabin, the soft breath of the wind brushing against the walls. The fire embers glow faintly before fading completely. Outside, the prairie sleeps, vast and still, and the stars shimmer silently, watching over the quiet world. Every element of the frontier, the land, the animals, the whispering wind, the distant creek seems to breathe in unison, a slow, measured rhythm that carries the cowboy gently into deep, untroubled sleep. The first faint whispers of dawn stretch slowly across the horizon, painting the sky with delicate shades of lavender, pale pink and muted gold. The prairie lies still beneath the early light, every blade of grass tipped with dew that glimmers faintly, catching the gentle illumination of the rising sun. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the earthy scent of the soil and the faint sweetness of wildflowers that have lingered from yesterday. The world seems to exhale slowly, stretching awake with a quiet grace that fills every corner of the vast landscape. Inside his small, weathered cabin, the cowboy stirs once more. His muscles ache lightly from the labor of the previous day, but the gentle warmth of the rising sun filtering through the wooden window shutters eases the stiffness. He rises slowly, feeling the texture of the rough floorboards beneath his feet, the faint chill lingering from the night air. His boots rest quietly near the door, still scuffed from the journeys of yesterday. Each motion is deliberate, careful, as though the morning itself dictates a measured, peaceful pace. Outside, the ranch begins to awaken. The horses shift gently in the stable, their soft snorts mingling with the faint clatter of hooves on straw. A distant cow calls, its low moo echoing across the field in a soft, elongated note. The breeze drifts lazily through the trees and tall grasses, bending them slightly, creating a subtle wave that moves slowly across the prairie. The cowboy inhales deeply, savoring the calm, unhurried beauty of the morning. Every sound is deliberate, every motion of the land measured, as if time itself has slowed for the day to begin gently. He makes his way to the stable, his hands brushing softly along the horses' coats. The animals are still drowsy from the night, shifting their weight slowly, shaking their heads to rid themselves of lingering dew. The cowboy loosens the saddles, checks the reins, smooths the leather straps, and pats each horse's neck carefully, one by one. The rhythm of these movements is meditative, soothing, each gesture connecting him with the steady, unchanging pulse of the land around him. Breakfast is a slow ritual. He lights a small fire, letting the sparks catch gently before warming water for coffee over the flickering flames. Biscuits are softened on the edge of the pan, and a bit of dried meat sizzles quietly as it warms. He sits on a rough-hewn stool, holding the warm cup in his hands, and allows the gentle heat to seep through his fingers. Outside, the sun rises gradually, stretching long rays across the rolling hills, and the soft early morning breeze carries the faint scent of dew-soaked grasses and distant pine. Each sip of coffee, each bite of biscuit is deliberate, a small pleasure savored in the calm serenity of dawn. By mid-morning, the cowboy mounts his horse, feeling the familiar comfort of the worn leather saddle beneath him. He guides the animal slowly out into the fields, the reins held loosely in his hands. The cattle have begun to stir, moving softly across the pastures, their movements quiet and measured. The land stretches endlessly in every direction. Golden grasses waving under the gentle wind, distant hills rolling like waves frozen in time. Every step of his horse, every soft nudge of his hand, every breath he takes is in rhythm with the slow, meditative cadence of life on the frontier. As he moves through the pasture, the cowboy notices details that could easily be overlooked in the rush of day. A butterfly landing delicately on a dew-kissed flower, the shimmer of sunlight on a distant creek, the faint glint of a bird's wing as it stretches and rises into the soft morning air. The world feels expansive yet intimate, vast yet familiar, and he moves through it with quiet attention, letting each detail sink into his senses. Each moment is slow, deliberate, full of calm observation, as though the very act of noticing the small wonders of the prairie is a kind of meditation. The morning stretches on, the sun climbing higher, warming the air without haste. The cowboy checks fences carefully, repairing any broken posts, adjusting loose ropes, and ensuring that every barrier stands firm. His movements are steady, rhythmic, and unhurried. He pauses often to breathe deeply, letting the soft wind fill his lungs and listening to the quiet symphony of prairie sounds. The distant low calls of cattle, the soft rustling of leaves, the gentle trickle of the creek as it winds through the land. Time flows slowly here, measured by these repeated, careful motions, by the gentle progression of light across the fields, and by the subtle rhythm of nature itself. By late morning, the cowboy pauses beneath a sprawling oak tree, allowing the soft shade to shelter him from the growing warmth of the sun. He leans against its trunk, listening to the gentle whispers of the breeze through the branches, the faint murmur of a stream nearby, and the low, occasional stirrings of his animals. The prairie seems endless in every direction, calm and tranquil, each moment flowing gently into the next. Here, he can rest for a while, letting the quiet beauty of the land fill his mind and guide his thoughts into slow, thoughtful wandering. The prairie is bathed in the soft glow of late morning. The sun climbs steadily, warming the earth and casting gentle light across the waving grasses. A few scattered clouds drift lazily across the sky, their slow, deliberate movement mirrored in the gentle sway of the prairie below. The air is filled with the subtle, comforting sense of earth, dry grass, and distant wildflowers. Every sound is quiet, measured, as though the world itself is moving at a pace designed to soothe the mind. The cowboy moves once more through the open fields. His horse steps carefully along the soft, sun-warmed soil, hooves pressing lightly into the ground. The herd of cattle follows in a slow, undulating rhythm, their heads dipping occasionally to graze. The cowboy's voice is soft, almost a whisper, guiding them gently along the well-worn paths of the ranch. Each word, each gesture, is deliberate, unhurried, as though the very pace of the prairie dictates the flow of time. Along the way, he observes the quiet details of life on the frontier. A dragonfly hovers over a small patch of wildflowers, wings catching the sunlight in delicate flashes. The creek winds lazily through the pasture, its surface reflecting the sky like a silver ribbon. He notices the faint tracks of rabbits and deer in the soft soil, the tiny movement of insects across the grasses, and the shimmer of morning dew lingering on leaves and rocks. Every detail is a small meditation, a moment to be absorbed slowly, deeply, with calm attention. By late morning, the cowboy pauses beside a weathered fence that separates two pastures. Some posts are loose, ropes frayed from weeks of sun and wind. He dismounts, patting his horse gently before kneeling to work. His hands move carefully, tightening each rope, hammering posts back into place, smoothing rough edges with deliberate care. The motions are repetitive, rhythmic, and soothing, blending seamlessly with the natural symphony of the prairie, the soft murmur of the creek, the distant low calls of cattle, the occasional flap of a bird's wings. Once the fence is repaired, he mounts his horse again, leading the herd toward a shaded grove near the far end of the property. The animals move slowly, grazing lightly as they follow the cowboy's calm guidance. The afternoon sun is warm but gentle, its light golden and soft, casting long shadows across the rolling fields. Each step, each turn of the reins, each gentle nudge of the cattle is performed with careful, measured attention. The world feels vast, calm, and unhurried, a place where every motion has its own quiet rhythm. He pauses occasionally, letting his gaze drift over the distant hills. The landscape stretches endlessly. Golden grasses, scattered trees, winding creeks, and distant rock formations that rise softly against the horizon. A hawk circles high above, its slow, lazy movement reflecting the unhurried pace of life below. The cowboy takes a deep breath, letting the scents of the land fill his lungs. The warmth of sun-baked soil, the faint aroma of pine from a distant grove, the subtle sweetness of wildflowers. Every breath is deliberate, soothing, and restorative. Mid-afternoon approaches, and the cowboy leads the herd toward a gentle stream that cuts through the pasture. The water moves slowly, glinting faintly in the sunlight, and the cattle lower their heads to drink. The cowboy observes each animal with quiet attentiveness, noting their movements, listening to their soft murmurs, and adjusting their pace gently when needed. Even the horse beneath him shifts slowly, chewing the bit and flicking its ears, aware of the calm, unhurried rhythm of the day. He spends time tending to small details, adjusting a bridle, brushing dust from the horse's coat, checking the health of the cattle. Every motion is slow, methodical, almost meditative, blending work with quiet contemplation. The wind moves softly across the prairie, carrying with it the distant sounds of the ranch, a dog barking faintly, the gentle slap of water in the creek, and the low hum of insects drifting lazily through the warm air. Each sound reinforces the serene cadence of the afternoon. As the sun climbs higher toward the middle of the afternoon, the cowboy pauses beneath a large oak tree, allowing the shade to offer relief from the gentle warmth of the sun. He dismounts, patting his horse slowly, and takes a quiet moment to observe the land. The prairie seems endless in every direction, golden and green, soft and welcoming. The creek glimmers in the distance. The cattle rest in the partial shade, and the wind carries soft whispers through the grasses. Every detail is absorbed slowly, purposefully, drawing the mind into calm reflection and creating a gentle rhythm that mirrors the measured heartbeat of the Old West. The sun begins its slow descent toward the horizon, casting the prairie in warm golden light. Long shadows stretch across the rolling fields, and the grasses sway lazily in the gentle breeze. The air is tinged with the faint warmth of the day, still carrying the earthy scent of soil and the subtle perfume of wildflowers. Every sound is quiet and deliberate. The soft murmur of cattle grazing, the distant flap of birds' wings, the gentle whisper of wind through the trees. The world seems to slow, settling into a calm rhythm that mirrors the measured pace of the cowboy's day. The cowboy guides his herd steadily across the pasture, his voice soft and low, coaxing them gently along the worn paths. The horses follow with quiet, patient steps, their hooves pressing softly into the sun-warmed earth. The cattle move with unhurried grace, each step deliberate, each breath calm and measured. The cowboy's hands rest lightly on the reins, guiding, observing, responding to the subtle shifts of the animals. There is a deep, meditative rhythm to every movement, a quiet harmony between man, animals, and the vast landscape around them. Along the way, he notices the small details of the late afternoon, the sunlight glinting on a distant creek, the soft ripple of water as it meanders lazily through the pasture. A hawk soaring slowly above, its shadow gliding over the golden fields. The gentle sway of a cluster of wildflowers as a faint breeze passes through them. Every element seems to move in sync with the day, each sound and motion blending into a serene symphony of the Old West. The cowboy absorbs these details slowly, deliberately, allowing them to sink into his senses like quiet meditation. By mid-afternoon, the cowboy pauses to check a fence along the edge of the pasture. He dismounts slowly, patting his horse gently and running his hands over the wooden posts. Some are loose, some frayed from the sun and wind, but his careful hands tighten ropes, hammer posts, and smooth, rough edges. Each motion is rhythmic, deliberate, and soothing, blending seamlessly with the gentle sounds of the prairie. The low call of a distant cow, the soft ripple of the creek, the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. Every action is slow, careful, and meditative, connecting him deeply with the land. Once the fence is secure, he guides the herd toward a shaded area near a stand of trees. The cattle move slowly, their heads dipping to graze, while the horse beneath him shifts its weight, ears flicking toward distant sounds. The sun continues to lower, softening the colors of the prairie, bathing everything in warm amber and muted gold. Shadows stretch long and gentle across the rolling hills, the light soft and forgiving. Every step, every turn, every motion feels in perfect harmony with the day's slow, deliberate pace. The cowboy pauses beneath a large oak tree, letting the shade cool his face and shoulders. He observes the animals quietly, a few calves resting in the grass, the older cattle grazing slowly, the horse nuzzling the tall grass as it waits. He takes a deep breath, inhaling the faint scents of earth, wildflowers, and sun-warmed wood. The world feels vast yet intimate, expansive yet comforting. each moment slow and deliberate, encouraging gentle reflection and quiet thought. As the sun nears the horizon, painting the sky with soft streaks of orange, pink, and lavender, the cowboy begins leading the herd back toward the ranch's main area. The animals respond easily, moving with the natural rhythm of the land. He moves slowly, allowing the herd to find their pace, watching the shadows lengthen across the prairie. The distant creek glimmers faintly in the fading light. The breeze cools, and the sounds of the land, birds settling, leaves whispering, cattle murmuring, blend into a gentle, calming chorus. Finally, as the sun dips lower, he reaches the edge of the ranch. The cattle are guided into the pens near the river, each animal settling slowly, their movements unhurried and calm. The cowboy pats the last horse gently, whispering a soft word of reassurance. The prairie stretches endlessly behind him, the golden light fading to soft amber, the first hints of twilight brushing the sky. The world is quiet, vast, and enveloping, every detail softened by the gentle approach of evening. The cowboy stands for a moment, watching the horizon, the warm glow of the sunset reflecting across the fields. He inhales deeply, letting the serene beauty of the prairie fill him completely. The sounds, the colors, the movements of the animals, and the rhythm of the land create a slow, soothing symphony. Every element, every motion, every breath seems to carry him toward the calm, gentle closure of the day. The sun sets fully, and twilight blankets the prairie, soft and quiet, preparing the world for the peaceful arrival of night. The sky deepens into soft shades of violet and indigo as the sun disappears behind the distant hills. The prairie is bathed in a quiet, muted glow, the fading light casting long, soft shadows over the rolling grasses. The air cools gradually, carrying the earthy scent of soil and the lingering perfume of wildflowers. The gentle whisper of wind moves through the tall grasses, and the distant call of birds settling for the night creates a calm, serene rhythm. Time feels slow, stretched, and deliberate, like the gentle pulse of the land itself. The cowboy guides his herd to the holding pens near the riverbank. The animals move slowly, their heads dipping to graze as they follow his calm, measured instructions. The horse beneath him steps lightly, shifting weight from one hoof to the next with deliberate ease. The soft murmur of the cattle blends with the faint rustle of leaves, creating a quiet, soothing symphony. Each motion is unhurried, deliberate, as if the land itself dictates the pace of the evening. Once the cattle are secured, the cowboy dismounts, patting his horse gently and leading it toward the small corral near the stable. He runs his hands over the leather saddle and reins, checking for any signs of wear or discomfort. The animals settle into the pens, murmuring softly, and the horse grazes quietly nearby. The cowboy takes a slow, deep breath, inhaling the cool evening air, letting the faint sounds and scents of the prairie calm his mind. Every detail, the soft clatter of hooves, the distant creak, the whisper of wind, blends into a slow, meditative rhythm. He walks slowly back to the cabin, the fading light casting long shadows across the worn path. Each step is measured, careful, and deliberate. The horizon glows faintly with the last remnants of sunlight, painting the sky in soft shades of pink, lavender, and deepening blue. The prairie stretches endlessly in every direction, quiet and still, as if holding its breath before the arrival of night. The cowboy pauses briefly to take in the view, appreciating the vastness of the land, the calm of the animals, and the subtle beauty of the fading day. Near the cabin, he tends to a small fire, arranging wood with gentle care. The flames flicker softly, casting a warm, golden glow that contrasts with the cool, deepening tones of the prairie beyond. He warms a simple meal, biscuits, dried meat, and a steaming cup of coffee. He eats slowly, savoring each bite, listening to the quiet around him. letting the rhythmic crackle of the fire and the soft murmurs of the land become a gentle lullaby for his senses. The cowboy moves through his nightly routines with slow, deliberate care. He brushes the horse's coat one last time, checks the fence lines along the nearby pastures, and ensures that every animal is secure and comfortable. Each action is measured, rhythmic, and meditative, blending seamlessly with the quiet sounds of night settling over the ranch. The wind carries faint, soothing scents across the prairie. The dry warmth of the soil, the faint sweetness of lingering wildflowers, and the subtle aroma of pine from a distant grove. As twilight fades into night, stars begin to pierce the deepening sky, scattered across the vast expanse like delicate points of silver light. The crescent moon rises slowly, casting pale illumination across the prairie, highlighting the gentle curves of the hills and the soft sway of the grasses. The world is quiet, expansive, and calm, every element moving in gentle rhythm with the cowboy's deliberate, unhurried motions. The prairie seems to breathe in unison with him, carrying him toward the restful, restorative embrace of night. Finally, he returns to the cabin. The door closes softly behind him, muffling the gentle sounds of the prairie. He removes his boots carefully, stretches slowly, and settles onto the simple mattress. The fire has dwindled to glowing embers, casting a soft, warm glow that mingles with the cool night air drifting through the open window. He closes his eyes, listening to the calm symphony outside. The soft murmur of the creek, the distant stir of resting animals, the faint whisper of wind through the grass. Every sound, every breath, every motion blends into a peaceful rhythm, guiding him gently into sleep. The prairie lies in complete stillness. The sky is a deep, infinite blue, scattered with countless stars that shimmer faintly, each one a distant, quiet spark in the vast darkness. The crescent moon casts a pale, gentle light across the land, illuminating the rolling fields and casting long, soft shadows. The air is cool and calm, carrying the earthy scent of soil, faint traces of wildflowers, and the subtle chill of night. Every sound seems slowed, deliberate, as if time itself has yielded to the quiet of the vast, sleeping prairie. The cowboy lies in his cabin, the soft mattress beneath him shaped by long days and countless nights. The fire has faded to glowing embers, warm but quiet, filling the room with a faint, comforting glow. He adjusts the blanket over his shoulders and listens to the hushed world outside. The distant, low murmur of the creek, the gentle shifting of animals in their pens, the soft whisper of wind brushing across the tall grasses. Each sound is subtle, deliberate, and soothing, forming a natural lullaby that guides the mind into deep calm. His thoughts drift slowly, untethered. He recalls the rhythm of the day, the early rise with the pale pink glow of dawn, the quiet guidance of his herd across the fields, the meditative repair of fences, the gentle sway of grasses in the afternoon sun. Every detail, from the soft murmur of the creek to the faint glint of sunlight on distant rocks, lingers in his mind with slow, deliberate clarity. Each memory folds into the next, a continuous, calming current of reflection that stretches gently towards sleep. Outside, the animals rest quietly. The horses stand still, heads lowered, breathing softly in the night air. The cattle murmur faintly among themselves, a soothing background hum to the vast, silent prairie. Insects move softly across the ground, their tiny motions almost imperceptible. The wind carries a gentle rustle through the tall grasses, a slow, whispering movement that blends harmoniously with the faint, distant sounds of the land. Everything is deliberate, measured, and calm, a slow symphony of life at rest. Hours pass quietly, almost imperceptibly. The moon rises higher, bathing the prairie in soft silver light. Shadows stretch long and gentle, mingling with the dim glow of stars. The cowboy breathes slowly, each inhalation and exhalation synchronized with the quiet rhythm of the land. The prairie seems to pulse gently with him, carrying a deep, steady calm that seeps into every fiber of his being. Each sensation, cool air on skin, soft mattress beneath, faint fire warmth, blends into a continuous lull, a slow, hypnotic cadence. As the night deepens, the faintest hint of dawn begins to appear. A soft glow, pale and gentle, stretches across the horizon, painting the edges of clouds with faint lavender and muted gold. The prairie remains quiet, but the subtle shift in light hints at the beginning of a new day. Animals stir slowly, stretching, adjusting, responding to the first signs of morning. The cowboy senses the change without moving, feeling the gentle promise of day arriving over the calm, sleeping land. Finally, the sun begins to rise. Golden rays stretch across the horizon, illuminating the rolling hills, shimmering across the dew-tipped grasses, and glinting faintly on the surface of the creek. The air warms gently, carrying the comforting scent of soil and wildflowers awakened by morning. Birds begin their slow, measured songs, a soft, melodic accompaniment to the gentle light. The cowboy rises slowly, stretches deliberately, and listens to the symphony of day returning to life. He moves through the cabin quietly, preparing for the new day with deliberate care. Boots are tied, the horses checked, reins and saddle adjusted carefully. Each action is rhythmic, methodical, and calm. He steps outside, the cool morning air brushing against his skin, and breathes deeply. The prairie stretches endlessly before him, bathed in soft golden light, calm and vast. The animals begin their slow, unhurried movements, grazing and shifting gently as the day awakens fully. The cowboy mounts his horse, feeling the familiar comfort of the worn leather saddle. He guides the animal toward the fields, ready to continue the endless rhythm of frontier life. The sun climbs higher, warming the land gradually, casting long, soft shadows and illuminating the grasses with gentle gold. The prairie seems alive yet calm, every motion, sound, and scent blending into a continuous, soothing meditation. Each step, each breath, each gentle movement of horse and cattle is part of the quiet harmony of the Old West. And so, the cycle begins anew. The cowboy moves slowly through his day, guiding, observing, repairing, and reflecting. The world is vast, expansive, and measured. Time stretches with the rhythm of life on the prairie, every detail observed slowly, every motion deliberate, every sound gentle and unhurried. The land, the animals, the wind, and the soft glow of sun and moon move together in harmony, carrying both cowboy and listener alike into a state of calm, reflective rest, perfect for drifting gently towards sleep.